It is quite common to use purchase orders when we're working with job costing. Keep in mind that purchase orders do need to be turned on inside of your QuickBooks program. If we go to the Edit menu down to Preferences, this is where you'll be able to actually turn your purchase orders on. Do make it a point to turn on your purchase orders before starting the process. When purchase orders are turned on, you'll also want to note that you have the ability to actually note the customer right on the purchase order itself. This is extraordinarily useful when the items come in and you need to know if it has already been committed to a job. Also note that it'll tell you if the item is back ordered and how many you have received to date. The idea is at any given time I can see how many I've ordered and what the status of those are. When the last item has been received, we can then mark the individual item closed so that we can clear the purchase order out. Now, troubleshooting wise, this column is going to become important. When it's at year end and you want to close out purchase orders, condense your data, you will have to ensure that every line item is closed within a purchase order and that the purchase order has been closed out. If you do not close these purchase orders, when you go to condense data, this is still going to be considered active and will not clear from your system. When you've put in a purchase order, also keep in mind that there are a variety of methods that we can use to actually receive your goods. We can receive our items and the bill at the same time, just our items, or just our bill. The idea here is that if I'm in accounting, I may be privy to both the amount and the quantity that was ordered. However, if for instance I am in the warehouse, I may not be privy to the actual accounting data and the amount is not necessary. As a result, I will simply receive the items by quantity in the warehouse, and to do this I'll utilize just receive items. When I receive them, I will then go in a second time to actually put the amounts in. So keep that in mind as you're working with your purchase orders. Also remember, QuickBooks has a wonderful array of reports that we can use for these purchases. You'll notice that I can open my purchase orders by job, where I can see exactly what is open for each individual job. Of course, a double click takes me straight into that purchase order. If we close out, go back up to our Reports menu, once again go down to Purchases, you'll notice that I can get my purchases by vendor, by item, and by job. This is a great array of different profitability that I can see for these purchases. You'll also notice that when I go over to Inventory, my inventory will allow me to see my purchases both by valuation and by stock status. Again, if I go into stock status, you'll notice that the emphasis is the quantity on hand for the warehouse. If we go back up to our reports, go back down to inventory, and this time go into our valuation, here you'll notice that the emphasis is not as much on the quantity on hand as it is on the asset value. So the idea is each of the profitability reports that we produce have a very specific function. The valuation for the finance and accounting side, and our actual quantity on hand, and inventory stock for our warehouse and inventory control.